Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today I'm going to be working on my Barbados Cherry or Ruby Apricot tree. I have two of these trees. One was given to me by the tropicalbonsai.com as a gift in the middle of summer, and the other was given to me by Aaron, a club member of the KW Bonsai Society, a cutting. I haven't done anything with this tree since I got it. I've just let it grow, and it's grown really well. There's a lot of long shoots on it. It's an exposed root style, and it's growing over top of a rock. And it's kind of an unusual style for me. I generally grow my trees in a more realistic style, trying to create a miniature replica of one you would see in nature. So this is more of a bonsai style. I could find a rock, a taller rock, and kind of plant the roots over top of a taller rock and maybe create a more realistic looking tree that way. Other than that, I don't know what else I could do with it other than just honor the original styling intent and keep on developing it. The tropicalbonsai.com has a nice color catalog of all their trees. So here's the section on the Ruby Apricot. It's also known as the Barbados Cherry or the West Indian Cherry, and it's a common tree used in bonsai. They flower, they get fruit, and the fruit is edible, and they're a fairly easy tree to grow. They are quite cold tolerant. They'll go down to freezing quite happily, but you don't want to go much below freezing. And I would recommend you keep it 5 to 10 degrees above freezing in the winter. So they're more of a temperate tree, but they can also be grown as a tropical. I think to get them to flower, they need a cool period, but they'll grow fine as a tropical tree also. This tree did flower really nicely over the summer. It kind of has pinkish purple flowers on it, and I have a fruit over here. Right here, and I'm going to try eating it. So I will pick the fruit off. I don't know if it's quite ripe. It's a bit orangey colored. They should be a dark red, but let's try it and see what it tastes like. All right, here I go. So far it's not bad. There's some seeds in it. Very pleasant tasting. I would say it tastes a lot like a sweet apple. I'll save the seeds. Maybe I'll plant those. Yeah, so very pleasant tasting. Yeah, very similar to an apple taste. I'll maintain the style of that first tree. And the second one here from Aaron, I can grow into more of a traditional, natural-looking bonsai. Here is a look at the flowers you can expect to get on these trees. That's another exposed root style. And down below they show kind of a cascade style. Yeah, so they're beautiful when they're in flower. And the fruit is quite tasty and high in vitamin C. I have this tree in my basement. It's cooled down. It's around 10 degrees Celsius down there. So it's getting a cool period for the winter, but not below freezing. I treat it the same as my pomegranates. Both of these trees can be kept as tropicals or as a subtropical or temperate tree. I will be repotting this tree in spring. Maybe I'll replace that rock with a better looking rock, a taller one, and I think it'll improve the tree style-wise. So today I'm going to prune it up. This tree is a great natural cascade style tree. The branches get long, they're thin and flexible, and they droop on their own. You can see this shoot out to the right hand side here is growing really long. So I will continue that style, the cascade style, building sort of a dome canopy on the tree. I think that would look quite nice. I'll show you a close-up look at the tree. It has an unusual root here that comes out and it wraps around
kind of the trunk and then grows down as a root here. So kind of an unusual root structure. I haven't really locked in the front of this tree. The strongest branch is this one, and it goes to the back. I don't like this as a front because of that root. From the front view, it has a branch kind of coming not straight out the front, but almost. So I'm thinking somewhere in this view would be the best. It shows the curvature of the roots. This branch goes off to the left, and the major trunk line goes to the right, and I can always redirect that more towards the front of the tree. Maybe even rotating it a bit more like this. So I'll prune it up with that in mind. Now, with these cascade trees, you don't want all the front foliage coming down and covering up the trunk line because, you know, the roots, the exposed roots, are the interesting part of the tree. So I've got to prune, you know, everything coming out the front shorter so it's not hanging down in front of the root base. And then I can leave the ones to the left and the right hand side longer, cascading down. Now I don't want them cascading down past the lip of the pot. I want to shorten them. Otherwise, you know, you're getting into a different style of a tree where you're getting from a sort of semi-cascade to a full cascade, which could come in the future, I guess. There's no reason you couldn't style this more as a cascade tree. It would probably look quite nice. With this as the front of my tree, I'm going to start by pruning off anything that's sticking straight out towards me. So I think this branch has to come off like that. I've got another kind of eye poker branch here that I'll take off like that. You can see the trunk line a little more from the front. I've got this really long branch, and I don't want it hanging down in front of this branch off to the left hand side, so I'm going to prune the lower part of that branch right off like that, taking that great big long shoot off. And then I've got a branch down low here that comes from this side of the tree, crosses my root base and goes out to the right side, so I'll remove that one just to clean up this trunk line or root line a bit like that. There's a branch here going on the inside of the curve. I'll remove that. So this is getting the front cleaned up. There's a branch here that comes from way over here and crosses all these other branches. I'll take that off like that. Now if this is the front, here's my trunk line coming up, and I've got this branch and part of it's growing across the trunk line, so I'm going to take just that part off like that. I've got I'm going up my trunk line here. I'll just remove some of these branch stubs. And I've got a couple of leaders here. This is probably my most flowing leader, or this one maybe. My thickest one is at the back, which I think, if this is my front view, I want to develop this as a back branch, so I'm encouraging vigor in these front ones to thicken them up so they're, you know, become the thickest trunk line someday. And I don't know, I'll prune this part of it off. It's kind of an eye poker. And then this one, it comes from back there and it's kind of crossing this branch, so I'm going to remove that part of it. I'll prune it back short in case something comes out of it in a better direction. There's a stub here I can prune off from previous prunings. I've got, if this is my, my major back branch here, I've got another smaller one growing underneath it here. I don't think I need both branches. I know I don't. So I'm going to take this one off. Like that. Kind of a major branch, but it cleans up this area quite nicely. So I think this is my most vertical. I think I'll grow that as the leader of this trunk line coming up, forming a canopy up here. So this one will be more of a side branch, and it may get pruned off in the future. But for now, I'm going to shorten it. So I'll prune halfway between the leaf nodes here, allowing for a bit of dieback. So the tree is slowly getting cleaned up. You can see the structure of it more now, and it's a little more flowing than the previous front view. There's one hanging down here. I've got kind of a couple of branches in this area. One is more developed, flowing out the back, and this one kind of curves down underneath it and points straight down. I don't think I need that little one, so I'm going to remove it like that. I'm going to shorten this one back to here. Now, right here I have quite a whirl of branches. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's a couple out the back, 5, 6. So if I let them all grow, I'll get a big lump in that section. It'll thicken up and I'll get a lump. So I've got to do some branch selection here. The ones that are growing vertical in that branch, I want it to grow it as a back branch, and this will form my canopy. So I'm going to prune off the vertical one. So that comes off. That's one of the branches removed. I kind of like this one growing underneath. And I think that's the one I should keep, so I'm going to remove the one that's above it. That one. And the one that's coming out the front here, it's going to interfere with this branch eventually. And I'm not sure I need that one. It's a tough decision. I'm just looking out the back. Well, I'm going to prune this one off here. It's sticking straight out the back. It may even be dead. I'll take this little one off because I'm thinking of reducing this stump back here to this branch to continue that cascade. And I think that's what I'll do. I think that makes sense. So I'm going to remove all the branches from that stump, and then I'll cut it back. So I've got to decide. I've got 2 here. Do I need those? I could keep one of them, maybe the one that's further back, and remove the front one. It'll allow me to prune that stub off. There's one up top I can prune off. So now you can see that stub that I'm going to prune back sticking up here. So I'll get out my cutters and remove that section of the tree. I've got this branch on the bottom that I think I want to keep, but I'm not sure. So I will come in here and prune that off. Here I go. So that's removed. So I still have 3 branches going from that one spot. So I'd like to reduce it to 2. And I think it's going to be the one coming out the front. So this one here, I'll take it off. Like that. So now this trunk line comes up, divides into 2. I think that looks quite good. That's looking good. I'll prune this branch back. Prune that tip back, prune this tip back, just making that branch more compact. I've got a branch here This one curves back in towards the tree. I'm going to remove that one or prune it off short. I'll prune this one back short. And I'm just going above, looking at the structure of that branch. I can prune this back even shorter here. This to here. And this back to here. That gets that branch pruned up quite nicely. There is 3 branches growing in this one spot. I'll take off this one. It'll reduce the congestion at the end of that branch. I'll show you it from above. So there's a look at that branch from above. You can see the structure of it's fairly good now. So now from our front here, I've got a vertical shoot here. I mean, that could be my apex 2 maybe. It doesn't really flow, like the flow line is to the right here. This branch kind of flows naturally with it. This one's a bit abrupt. So I think I'll develop this one still as my leader and take off this branch here. Like that. Giving lots of light to this area to develop. I also have one sticking up from the back here. It's okay. I don't think it's too bad. It kind of flows just like this branch. I just need to shorten it. So I'll shorten it back to here. Taking that off. Now this branch to the right here, let's get that one pruned up. So I will shorten this one. I'll remove this growth up top. There's a branch kind of sticking up here. I'll shorten that one. There's one sticking up here I can prune back, eliminating some of the clutter in that area. There's 2 branches here growing from the inside of this curve back in towards the tree. I'll get rid of those. So they're gone. You can see that opens that area up a bit. I can prune there's a vertical part to this branch. You can see right here. If you can see it in here. And I've got a good kind of cascading section down below. So I'm going to prune off that upper one. And then I'll clean up that stub. So I will again come in with my pruners and just take that stub off the top. Like that. That makes that branch look better. So now on that branch it divides nicely here. I have a branch leader and then 2 branches that are opposite here. And I'm not really keen on the opposite branches, but if I prune this one off, I'm losing part of the cascade effect over on this side of the tree. And then I have another branch growing from the base. If you look at this branch here, there's one growing from the base of this branch, and then this one is the opposite over here. So I think, if this is my front, I think I've got to prune this one off because it's interfering with this one, and maybe that one has to go too because it's at the base of another branch. It'll really change the look of the tree. Let's take the one off at the base of the branch first here. So in here, taking that one out. So I have a choice of removing this front one or this back one here. One of them has to go. I'm thinking the front one. Keep the back one. So off this one goes. So you can see this branch continues flowing here, and then I have a nice back one that I'll prune off shorter to here. like that. And then my remaining branch, or one of them, comes out the back here. It's quite nice. I'll just prune the tip off here, prune the flower bud off here, and prune this one back to here, like that. Let's get rid of some of these leaves in here. Bit of cleanup work. Okay, so now for my front view, that's the tree I have left. Yeah, I was going to keep this one, wasn't I? Yeah. I'll prune off this one sticking straight up. Prune a stub off here. There's one coming out the front I can remove, like that. And then I've still got, in this branch, I still have 3 branches growing from almost the same spot. So I think I'll prune off the one that's coming out the front. It's kind of crossing over the design, over the apex of the tree. So that's gone. I think this one sticking up the back could come off too, because I have another branch underneath it. And maybe prune this one back just a little shorter to there. And maybe this one could come a little shorter also to there. Prune the tip off here. I've got one sticking up on this branch. I've got it dividing into 2 here. I'm going to take that off. I'll take the tip off here, cut this tip back. That's good. I've got some stubs here I can clean up. Like that. There's a little shoot growing up here I'm going to remove. Like that. I think this is a dead stub back here. I'll take that off. Well, I think I'm getting close. There's a vertical shoot here I'm going to remove. I'll take the tip off this branch. And I'll take the tip off this one. And this one. Like that. Wow. It's quite a pruning. But I think the tree's looking good. It's looking much better. I like the flow of the roots. I think it's got a good structure from this view. Okay, well that's got the tree pruned up, but I'm not done today. I've got to clean up the landscape. Here's a look at what I took off the tree today. Lots of branches, lots of long branches. I will put some rubber cement as cut paste on my pruning points, just to seal them up. And I think that's all the major parts I pruned. Could put a little bit on here. Yeah, that's got it sealed up. So now I've got to weed the planting and do a bit of cleanup work, get all the leaves removed, and then we'll see how it looks. I'll remove the ox here and my birds. It'll make cleanup a little easier if I get rid of all the animals. Now I can get to the weeds. Got the roots. I'm going to remove all the pebbles at the base of the tree too. It makes it a little hard to tell if the tree needs water, if it's got all this gravel at the base, so I'll remove all that. It'll also help me get to these weeds. Here is a look at what I removed from the surface of the soil. Lots of stones, a bit of moss, and a lot of weeds. So here's a look at the planting now. So you can see I left a clump of moss to the right hand side. I'm going to add a layer of sand on top. Some of the stones, were buried quite deep, so I'm going to level off the planting with some sand that'll represent water, and I'll have a little island over here. Before I add the sand, I'm just going to give the moss a quick pruning. There's a lot of kind of dead bits on the top and it's getting a little thick. So I'll just give it a quick shaping. Like that. And now I'll add the sand. So I'll just sprinkle it around, kind of leveling it off. I think I'll have fun when I repot this, kind of creating a landscape around this tree. You know, I could have it like this tree is growing in a garden, sort of an urban setting, so it would kind of justify the style as a tree, a garden tree that's pruned this way deliberately. And I'll water this to level the sand off. All right, here I go with the water. Leveling that sand off. So this pot has one drainage hole on the bottom. I checked that. I was a little worried there was no drainage holes, but it does have one. Okay, that's good. I'll put the animals back in the planting. This one doesn't really fit. I'll use this in a different planting, the ox, but we will use the birds. They're kind of cool. I'll put one back here. No, I won't use the temple. So there's the first tree, all cleaned up and pruned up. In spring I'll repot it and let it grow for the summer. So let's get out Aaron's tree now and get that pruned up. Here is a look at the cutting that Aaron gave me. So it comes up, there's one trunk line that divides into two very quickly. This one's being pruned off and a side branch is taken over. So a good front for the tree might be somewhere here, where everything's coming forward. Maybe this is a good front here. That trunk's kind of behind. Yeah, that could work nicely as a front there. All right, I'm going to prune the tree up now, just making it a little more compact. I'm going to begin by pruning the height down. So I'll take this shoot back to here, and I'll take this one back to here, like that. That gets the height a little lower. And then I will prune off this vertical shoot here. I'll just keep my more horizontal part of the branch, like that, trim it back. This branch here is looking good. I'll just prune it back a bit. The branch out this side, I can just make it a little more compact. There's one going straight up here I can take off. Cleaning that out a bit. And then I've got, the trunk line comes up and divides into two here, and I've got a third branch out the back that I'm going to remove. Like that. So that's got this part of the tree cleaned up, this trunk line. Next I'll work on this one. There's a stub I can remove that helps that trunk line flow a little better. Oh, there's a branch coming off the main trunk I missed back here. I'll just make that more compact. And then this trunk line, it comes up. I've got a branch coming off here. I'll prune off the vertical part and the stub. All right, I finished the pruning of the tree. There it is. It's looking quite nice. It's a little more compact, so I'll continue to grow this one in a more natural tree form, and the other one I'll keep as that exposed root style. Here is a final look
at my 2 Barbados cherry trees or ruby apricots. I find with these temperate trees, if you keep them cool over the winter, they just stay dormant. And then when they start warming up in spring, they get this fantastic flush of growth. They flower and develop fruit. If you keep them warm in the winter, they get large indoor leaves, and the growth is kind of coarse, large internodes between the leaves because of the lower light levels. So I think keeping them cooler is better for the trees. You can put them outside in spring, and then they put on that flush of growth, and they're always outdoor leaves, so they're nice, small, and compact. But they will grow either way. You can keep them warm or cool in the winter. Once again, the daylight is ending. It's getting dark outside, so that is all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.